do you think with some people, do you think staying with some people with different characters can really make you be like them? What percentage do you give it? Because I have been in uni with friends who love partying and drinking, but I don't. I guess it's also how you make your decision. I mean, birds of a feather flock together. That's what I've always believed. And if you read a lot of leadership, and maybe I'll even pose this question to our leadership coach joining us in studio now. His name is Chris Mokaya. But I think there is definitely something to be said about the company you keep. A lot of religions, not just business people, but even religions talk about it. A lot of leaders talk about it, just because they sort of, even if you're not doing what they do, they're also not challenging you to do anything else that is better. So yeah, it is a personal decision, but I would say there's certainly an effect. What would you say?
All right, just to respond to our viewer, it is correct that bad company ruins good morals. That is biblical. And you know, it's practical that you could be in the company of people. I could be here, but I'm not keeping your company. But I could be here and keeping your company, in that I'm interested in what you're doing and in what you're saying, and I'm willing to copy what you're doing. So I've also been in campus with people who, you know, go partying and taking alcohol, but because I was in the same class with them, doesn't mean I was keeping their company. It's only circumstances that brought us to the class. But I have my goals, and they have their goals. So the bottom line is, do you have your goals? Focus, follow your goals. Even if you find, okay, sometimes in Nairobi, people ride in matatus that are sometimes putting on screen some vulgar stuff. But do you go and practice the same? Just simply because you rode in the same matatu? It's simply just because you found yourself there. Or you just walking by the street, you see, you know, something weird by a madman somewhere, maybe stripping naked. Will you go and do the same thing because you happen to be in the same place as a mad person? So it is intentional. Your company is intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about what you decide to do.
All right. Great. Well, I hope that addresses that question for you. You can keep even more of your feedback coming into 22999. Right now, though, I want us to talk about leadership, and specifically to ask the question, what sort of leader are you? Okay. And Chris Mokaya, once again, is a leadership coach. And so let's dive straight in and begin with talking about what actually makes a good leader. I feel like in this country and in many sub-Saharan African countries, we've gotten this whole idea just very mixed up. If we look at our political landscape, we have politicians and I think very, very few leaders. So what makes someone a good leader?
All right. Thank you, Joyce. And what I think makes a good leader is, again, being intentional. Because there are all sorts of leaders, from those who are manipulative, transactional, to those who are servant leaders, those who put their followers first, those who, like Jesus Christ, wash their disciples' feet. So a proverbial washing of the disciples' feet means, in this case, being ready and willing to listen to your employee, being ready and willing to value their feedback, being ready and willing to value their welfare. They'll put everything in your company. I mean, Joyce, if you're here in Switch TV and your boss doesn't give a damn about you, I mean, you'll be thinking twice, like, am I in the right media house? But if you have the boss listening to you, valuing your feedback, and because of time, let me just say this, because I don't want to miss the viewer, that in this country, we take everything for granted. Forget about political leadership, because politicians are not necessarily leaders, but some leaders are politicians. People like Barack Obama has been a leader and a politician. But forgive me if I'm wrong, but look at the successor of Barack Obama, Donald Trump. He is a total politician, but he doesn't have the leadership qualities. And even that is acknowledged by his own people, because what happens when you have a president who is inciting people to violence?
So you're saying, going back to these traits, then you've talked about being very intentional, and that's even in how you treat your employees, how you treat the people around you, and being concerned about other people's welfare.
Exactly. And to bring it closer home, let's forget about Trump, let's forget about Obama. Do you know this person called Dr. James Mwangi? I had the privilege of being in a webinar with him the other day talking about philanthropy. and the guy is amazing. I found out that I know so little about this guy, but this is a guy who has been studied by scholars in United States universities. Why? Because he's the one who rescued the Equity Building Society from collapsing after a loss of about 3 million in 1993. And when he transformed from being the strategy director and became the CEO of the bank, from 93 to date, you see the phenomenal growth that Equity has become
So
to become
would
the biggest bank, commercial bank, actually not even in Kenya, but in Africa, because right now it is expanding to DRC, to Zambia and all that.
Okay.
Our own homegrown
Yeah.
leader who has shown a good example. But
Right.
let me before you go to the next question, because this is important. Why is he a leader? Maybe many people do not know that in 93, when Dr. James Mwangi took over, we are using this as a case study because I want the viewer to understand what we are talking about so that leadership is practical. That when this building society was making other 3 million loss, he took it upon himself and believed in the company. It had 27,000 customers, and it had staff, just a few number of staff. And this few number of staff were encouraged by Dr. Mwangi to use their network to recruit more members,
Okay.
and in turn bring the society to profitability. And he succeeded.
Okay.
About 1997, he succeeded, and then in 2004, it transformed to a bank. So
All
these
right.
are practical.
Our time is fleeting, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we can get to all of the different traits here. But thank you for bringing up that example of Dr. Mwangi. And would you then classify him as a transformational leader? Because I know there are different types of leaders.
There are different
I want
types
us to
of
drill
leaders,
into
yes.
those now.
And there are those manipulative leaders who just use people for their own sake. There are those, transactional leaders who are business-like. I'm the boss here, so what are you going to do?
Right.
But there are servant leaders, as I gave the example of Jesus Christ. That is the best example I can give. Then there are transformational leaders, and that's why I singled out Dr. James Mwangi,
Okay.
so that the viewer understands that Dr. James Mwangi is a Kenyan who has even been honored to be a doctor, yet he only holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree, and he's the subject of study in numerous universities.
Sure.
And so that is transformational. He's leaving a legacy.
Aside from Dr. James Mwangi, because I'm sure there are many other examples as well, what are the qualities or the characteristics? I want us to go through all of them.
All
so
right.
there's a transformational leader. And what then would you sort of say is the quality of a transformational leader?
The quality of a transformational leader, one, has vision. Because where there's lack of vision, even the Holy Book agrees that people perish.
Okay.
The transformational leader also values the welfare of his team. So he builds teamwork. He values teamwork. Third, the transformational leader does not take it upon himself to be the bossy type, and that's why he views feedback and communication as a way of, I can call it a bottom-up approach, so that those people who are working in teams below him actually inform the decisions he makes.
Okay.
So he's centered, his decision-making is centered on the feedback
All
that
right.
he receives from the team
Great.
that he works with.
Let's talk about influential leaders.
Influential leaders they're just a little bit more, not very effective, but influential leaders just mean they can inspire you to accomplish a particular task. After you accomplish that task, there's some little growth, but they don't push you to go above the bar. Yeah? Transformational, we have started with extreme. Transformational leaders are the ideal kind of leaders who push you to transform and push through the bar. And that's why I started intentionally to give the example of Dr. James Mwangi, because he's a person we can relate to, and we all agree that he has enabled Kenyans and Africans have financial inclusion, something that was not there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But as much as you're saying that's sort of the apex of it, I think the apex of it is actually servant leadership. But nonetheless, all of these other forms of leadership are still important in their own right. And when you think about influential leadership, where would you place someone like Barack Obama? Was he more of an influential leader?
Barack Obama could border on transformation, because look at it. He comes on the stage in 2004. He's a senator from Illinois. By 2008, he comes to the Democratic National Convention and tells Americans, hey, you know what? There's no black America or white America. There's no red America or blue America. There's one United States of America. That is a transformational message. And the standing ovation in that convention just spoke volumes. And the whole nation gravitated towards him and made him the first black president of the United States. So that is transformational.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about motivational leaders?
Motivational leaders, again...
And what's the difference between that and the influential leaders?
Okay, the difference between motivational leaders and influential leaders is that influential leaders, they inspire you and also give you opportunity to grow, but they don't give you the kicker to go above the bar. But influential leaders, they inspire you and motivate you to bring out the best in you. Whether you grow or not, that is none of their business, but they inspire some action in you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Earlier, when you talked about transactional leaders, and the tone you used to describe them didn't necessarily seem very positive. What is it about transactional leaders?
Yeah, now, transactional leaders are these on almost the extreme negative side of leadership, because it's like in an organization where it's business as usual. I'm the boss, I say this, you do it. This is the time, you stick to it. Stick to schedules, stick to targets, nothing more, nothing less. You don't meet the targets, I fire you. That is transactional. It's just business-like. There's no room for flexibility. Like, okay, it's like we are human. Sometimes human is to err. And the most important thing that I've remembered that should not escape the viewer's eye and ear is that it is important to embrace the culture of failure in an organization. If you don't embrace the culture of failure, the next big invention will not be there. It will not be there. So an organization cannot transform, just like, again, I repeat the example of Equity building society to become the biggest commercial bank in Africa and the world. It couldn't have happened if the employees were not allowed to make mistakes and they were not threatened with sacking and firing. The same employees who are in the building society when it's making that 3 million loss are the same employees that Dr. James Mwangi retained to turn around the fortunes of the building society to become a viable commercial bank. So I'm using the example for consistency to know the journey where an organization begins and where it can go. And there are so many organizations that can be transformed in a particular way depending on the circumstances of those organizations.
Okay. As we get ready to wrap up here, let's take a look then at the final one. Now this should be the opposite, complete opposite on the spectrum. And this is manipulative leaders.
Exactly. Manipulative leaders are on the extreme negative. And basically, those are people who will have the rigidity of the organization's bureaucracy, tell you to do this and do that, and even order you what is not even in your job description. So you'll be ordered, go and do this, go and do that, because I'm the boss. If you don't follow, I'll fire you. You get out. You can even verbally fire you on the spot, even live on camera. So those are manipulative leaders because they coerce you to do something, mostly for their own selfish interests.
All right.
Yes.
Lewis is saying leadership is being influential and empowering others. Miriam from Roy Sambo enjoying the show. Someone here says, wow, this topic is good but funny in some way because they say leaders come from God, but the leaders themselves are a different definition. God is not corrupt and he cannot allow his people to mislead and do bad things without him punishing them in his ways. So I think people really make a big deal of being a leader only because of their own personal interests. That's Millie watching from Oyole, certainly the case. And that's why I keep saying, you know what, especially as the youth of this nation, we need to be very careful that not every politician is a leader. Exactly. All right? But there are leaders that can be politicians, as you said.
It's true.
Chris, thank you so much for coming onto the show and sharing even the case study of Dr. James Mwangi. Indeed, he really is an icon for us as Kenyans. And, and the fact that he is Kenyan shows us that,
relate to.
Yeah, that it is possible.
Yeah,
it is possible for us to be like that. So, asante sana. And And how can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook. Follow my page at Mokaya Leadership Consulting, Instagram at Coach Mokaya, and Twitter at Servant Leader KE. And hey, myself, I exemplify leadership. So I humbly pray that God makes me a better leader, even as I coach people to lead.
Right.
And at the apex of it all, maybe one day, I'll be the President of the Republic of Kenya.
All right. Okay.
That is my prayer.
All right.
And whatever you speak to becomes
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking words into this.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, it takes 10, 20 years,
Okay.
but it's my vision. And without vision, people perish. So
Absolutely.
I'm living, I'm embodying what I am preaching, because I do not want to preach water and drink wine.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. Great. Thank you so much, Chris. Great to have you here on the show. And thank you to everybody that has been watching here today. Let's meet here again tomorrow for even more Full Circle with Joyce. And we'll be starting a new series in our devotion segment. You don't want to miss out on that. It's going to be a brand new month. It's birthday month for some of us. So make sure you're tuned in as we bring you even more great stuff and great content throughout the week. Until then, see you and have a great day ahead. Ciao.